Ellis-Hawke, and here we are in London, my hometown. I'll give you the reason for this short video, and that is to sell the copyright for this game here. It's been 30 years since I made this game, aiming to produce it and market it myself, but alas, that didn't happen. As I say, life got in the way. Over the years, the game has been played by friends and game producers who gave lots of comments about it, positive feedback, and which were much appreciated and addressed on. I feel certain the game has great commercial potential if taken up by the people or organisations that are genuine. And so now to a brief description, and I say brief because of plagiarism, of how the game works. You know, the rules and regulations and some of the important moves that are okay. You can compare it with chess, but let's start. Let's start with the board. Well, as you can see, the board consists of 3 colours. They can be any colours to whoever buys it, but I happen to choose silver, red and black. Now, the colours are relevant to certain pieces on this board. There are certain pieces that can only operate and be moved on the red squares, and also those on the black squares. Now, the aim of the game, let's start at the beginning. The aim of the game is we have 2 kings, but one of them has got to land up on what we call, or what I call, the throne square. That is the throne square in the middle. Now, don't see much distance between here and the throne square, but there's a lot of action. The king is the only piece allowed on the throne square, and you may have noticed there's the queen. Now, the queen has a lot of influence on the game. Unlike chess, when you play chess, you make a move, say, and as long as you keep your finger on the piece, you can return it. Well, I've taken that a stage further. You can move a piece, let go and consider it, and if you think that's okay, then you can move the queen. You get a game's move and a queen's move. Now, the queen moves 1 square at a time around the throne square. That is all. She cannot be taken, so she is constantly in the game throughout from start to finish. But here's the interesting thing. If, however, during the course of the game, a piece is here from a previous move, and say I want to move there, and then I look what happens. The queen's next square is taken by this piece. But you have to consider which is the most value to your game plan, this piece or that piece. Now, because you've taken your hand off, okay, it doesn't matter because you haven't made your queen's move yet. So you can move this back and then possibly move the sentinel out of the way, and then the queen, and that completes your move. In other words, every time you make a game's move, whatever, you make a game's move, you move the queen. But if it so happens that there's a king there, she can't take a king, she has to move to the next square. But if there's a piece, and she does this all the way, and she affects the game changes all the time at double the rate that it would be if it was a chess game. Basically, that's it. This board, as you may have noticed, is 9 squares by 9 squares, bigger than a chessboard. And it has occurred to me that if you expanded the board 11 squares by 11 squares, it's 121 squares, and had two other teams, two other kingdoms, call it what you like, then I don't know, the game would be mind-blowing. These pieces here are known as the wizards. They're not normally on the board, they're reserves. And they come into play if, say, my king got taken, then the object of the game still carries on. The object is to capture that king, so he doesn't get on. And if that happens, then it's a draw. However, when I lose my king, I have an option of having the wizard, which comes into play. You don't have to have it, but it's like if there's a very serious terrorist incident in London, then they call in the SAS. Very similar. Alterations, once whoever buys it can make alterations. I know that the pieces are just an example of what they should be. They can be done finer. Also, on average, a person has to experience roughly 2 games, and then the excitement of the challenge to win kicks in, to get to grasp the rules of the game. A game can last from 15 minutes to about 4 or 5 hours. You know, it all depends upon the players. Okay, I know it's you're comparing it with chess, and I'd be a fool not to ignore the horizontals, the verticals and the diagonals. It's so obvious. But the way I've broken them up is by using the colours, because okay, we've got a diagonal there, but it's only 2 reds and a black. Those 2 reds might be relevant, but the silver isn't for a certain piece. Oh, the name. Yeah, I do kind of look back at this and think this was really formed in 1991, was completed. And I wish I'd thought of the name the Game of Thrones, because I look at it now and I think really this is the original Game of Thrones. However, that's not to be, but it does remind me of that. I feel that it'd be nice to compare the names of the pieces compared to chess. Like you have a bishop, you have whatever, you have a knight and that in chess. However, in my pieces are completely different names. For instance, that is the lion, and it has a certain moves, certain colours. That is the hawk, named after me, Ellis-Hawke. And no, that is the unicorn. I got that wrong. This is the hawk, that's the hawk. And that has a particular movement on the relative to the colours. Here obviously is the king. Now here, that is the king's champion. And these little fellows along here, equivalent to pawns I suppose, but they're called sentinels. And that's them. There you have the names of the pieces, and this is obviously the wizard, which not necessarily comes into the game. It's an optional piece. That's the red one, and they are different, as you can see from the back. Yeah. And lastly, Her Majesty, the Queen. Also, one of the game producers that saw the game was from Nintendo, and he pointed out to me, it was about the name in actual fact. Because at the time I was calling it Super King, the game, whatever. There were some silly names. And he said, why don't we call it the Virgin Queen? And I said, why? He said, well, it's got sexual overtones, which inadvertently it has, because of the Queen. She, you know, she's looking for a king, whatever. But I wasn't aware of that. But he pointed it out to me. He was from Nintendo, and he had to go back to Japan, so things kind of withered away. It's been on and off. It's been in the back of my wardrobe for at least 25 years. But on occasions, it does get dusted down and comes out, and we have a few drinks and have a few games. I love the game. Obviously, I would say that. And in comparison with chess, it's equal to chess, if not better. But as I said, of course, I would say that, wouldn't I? However, if you're interested, can you initially contact me on my email address, and we'll take it from there. I'm sorry though it's so brief with the description of the game, but I'm not going to give too much away because it's just going on the internet, and basically I feel a bit vulnerable making this film. However, if there's a glimmer of hope out there for the game, for the future of this game, okay, go for it. Thank you for watching.